Jihaad Campbell, a Bronco? Do the Broncos need a linebacker? We are going to break that down. I'm Henry Chisholm. This is Andre Simone, and we're talking all about Alabama's linebacker, Jihaad Campbell. But first, we're going to throw it to our all-city draft expert, Fran Duffy, to give his thoughts.
Alabama linebacker Jihaad Campbell. He's 6'3", 235 pounds, one of the most versatile players in the front seven in this 2025 NFL draft. And what I love most about it is the versatile skill set with this player, because he can do a lot of different things. And you need to be that multifaceted playmaker if you're going to be a high pick at linebacker in today's NFL. Let's start with the pass game, because obviously that's where things start in the league. I think when you're looking at Jihaad Campbell from a coverage standpoint, he showed the ability to match up the tight ends one-on-one in single coverage in the SEC. That's a check mark. Plus, put that in the plus box. You look at zone coverage. He had an interception against Georgia this year that really showed his ability to kind of sort things out in zone, make plays on the football with his eyes on it. As a top-down guy playing from depth, that showed up in coverage. So, all right, he's got the ability to play one-on-one. He can play in zone. You love that with Jihaad Campbell. Then as a pass rusher, he had 5 sacks this year. Really impressive what he can do, not just as a blitzer from depth. Yeah, they'll put him down the line of scrimmage and they'll mug him up over the A gap and the B gap and stand him up and move him around. But there were times where he said, hand in the dirt, going up against tackles, I'm going to win with a bull rush. I'm going to win at the top of the rush. He was an outside linebacker his first couple of years. This was his first full season where he played as a true off-ball guy, down in, down out. And so there are some pluses and minuses to that, but the fact that he's got that versatility to be that true pass rusher, I think that that's very valuable for him moving forward. I will say, watching him at the Combine, he went through all the linebacker drills. Then teams, they wanted to see him go through the full allotment of pass rusher drills as well. I stayed afterwards just to watch that. He looked awesome going through the bags as a pass rusher and doing all of those types of movements. So I think when you're looking at him, there are multiple paths to success for this player. You get to the run game, he's really stout coming downhill. He never misses tackles. He's one of the better tacklers that I've seen at the linebacker spot coming out of college football over the last few years, especially for a guy that's going to get drafted as high as Jihaad Campbell. And so now from a negative standpoint, I think when you're looking at, okay, because he doesn't have a ton of time on task working it as a box player, as an off-ball backer from a stacked position, he can be a little bit slow to see things at times. That's something that he will need to get better at. I think that overall, the other big knock on him is going to be the shoulder surgery. It was announced that after the pro day that he had to undergo shoulder surgery for, I believe it was a torn labrum. That's something that's going to have to get worked out moving forward from your medical team. All 32 teams going to look at that. What is the projection? How fast is he going to be able to recover? You're not going to not pick him solely off of that, but you just want to make sure that that's taken into account and that everything looks clean coming out of surgery there. But when you're talking about Jihaad Campbell, this is a multifaceted linebacker. He plays extremely hard, some great effort plays in pursuit. He's got great size. The athleticism stands out. The ability to match up in coverage, to rush the passer from multiple alignments, and then to play the run downhill. A lot to like there with this profile. Jihaad Campbell, to me, the best linebacker in this class.
Good stuff there from Fran, as always. If you want more, make sure you go check out our draft guide. He's written reports on just about any draft prospect you can think of. You can do that over at thednvr.com. Like I said, Henry Chisholm, Andre Simone, and Andre, what do you think of Jihaad Campbell?
Wow, what a fascinating prospect.
Yes.
A guy who really exploded this last year as a junior, converting from outside linebacker, more of that edge rusher in the Bama scheme, to inside off ball. And as the year progressed, just grew by leaps and bounds. His third down ability and versatility, what he brings to the table, is just tremendous, because his cover ability, his range sideline to sideline, how well he can move backwards in coverage, and then that outside linebacker skill set to bend the edge, to get after the quarterback. This guy bent the edge and got a sack on Will Campbell. I mean, the top left tackle in the country, and then in that same LSU game is covering their best wide receiver in the slot. Like he was a nickel corner. Like it means nothing. On third down, potential superstar who seems to just be scratching the surface.
I agree. I think he is a superstar. I think just the athleticism and maybe an underrated part of him, or a piece that I really like, is his build. A lot of the time you get these 6'4" linebackers who are very long and kind of skinny, and they test really well. And you see him as these kind of weapons, like the Isaiah Simmons And sometimes what you want is the guy who's a little bit stockier, a little bit more thickly built, a little bit more of just a cube who you can plug up a lane in the middle and stop a guy in his tracks. And I think that's what makes him so enticing to me is he does have all the athleticism. He can make plays all over the field. He can drop back in coverage. He can also just stop you in your tracks in the A gap. And that's a piece that from athletic linebackers like him is often missing.
That honestly is my only question is,
oh, really?
So many questions he answers on third down. Fran alludes to it in the instincts as an off-ball linebacker, and that I think if you look at him earlier in the season versus later in the season, you see that coming along.
Yep. Position change makes sense.
But he is a little lighter to me.
Okay.
So at 6'2", 235. And so I do wonder about that downhill ability to close gaps. Now, Fran's kind of on your side and says he's such a sure tackler. And like, can you develop him to be that, But I do wonder about that. And look, maybe I'm a little snake bitten because let's face it, no defensive coordinator has had more offensive, versatile linebackers thrown his way than Vance Joseph. And Isaiah Simmons and Xavion Collins and Drew Sanders, Baron Browning.
Results aren't great.
Results were mixed at best.
Yeah.
Also, I just gave you Jihaad Campbell's size. That's not edge rusher size.
No,
so
it is
please
not.
Let's not do this all over again.
Yep.
And my question is, does he solve the issues that were exposed in the wild card round against Buffalo, right?
Interesting.
Because he is a smidge lighter. Does he change that identity as a truly great run defense where you can't just run it on us? I don't know.
I think first of all, we gotta give 235 a little bit of credit.
Yeah.
I think
that's
235
fair.
in the modern NFL. I think our guy Todd Davis played at 235.
Yeah, you're probably right.
For
You're
perspective,
right.
and again, I was thinking he's more 6'1" than 6'2", and that does kind of change where that weight is distributed. Whereas Todd, 6 foot even.
Yeah,
it's a pure little thumper.
Stockier.
Yep. But again, I love him. I think he's a weapon. I think for how Sean Payton wants to build defenses in particular, I think he's willing to sacrifice a little bit of that. And again, I like what he brings to the table, but I also totally agree. Not an edge rusher. He is not. You draft him to be a linebacker, and he has that third down versatility. We've seen Alex Singleton at times when he was healthy, kind of line up on the edge where he could either drop or rush. We've seen him have success there. I think that you could use Jihaad Campbell in that same way. I think you still blitz him a lot. You play him in A gaps, you play him out wide, you drop it. But that's stuff that Vance Joseph did with all sorts of linebackers last year, which means you don't have to rebuild the defense for him. You kind of just plug him into what you're doing, and he's a perfect fit, I think, for what the Broncos have been doing.
If you look back on this offseason and you added Jihaad Campbell, Talanoa Hufanga as weapons in the nickel for a defense that already had Jaquan and still has PJ Locke on the bench, I think you'd feel really good at what you're able to throw to the defenses around the AFC. Is it really a need, though?
There we go.
Because you mentioned Singleton. That contract's up in a year, and your $6 million a year is such a bargain for Singleton in that linebacker position after what this offseason kind of reset that off-ball linebacker. And then you do still have Drew Sanders, former top 100 pick, still young, still raw. And you signed Justin Sternad on top of Dre Greenlaw. Do you need Jihaad Campbell? Will he even be around? It's going to be fascinating for me to see what the NFL thinks of an off-ball linebacker with this much third down value in an offseason while all these linebackers got paid.
Yep. It's definitely interesting. And I think you start by saying Dre Greenlaw, Alex Singleton, they're your two starters. If you get to training camp, Jihaad Campbell unseats Alex Singleton. Singleton's probably cut because while $6 million is a steal, that's a free $6 million that you can save right there. More likely, though, I'd imagine those two are still your starters through the season, and then injuries pop up, and who knows? Maybe he takes the job. Maybe he subs in for a few weeks, gets some reps, and then subs back out.
I mean, some Greenlaw insurance wouldn't be the worst.
Totally, 100%. But then you get to the end of the year, and that's where you'd say, odds are Alex Singleton doesn't come back. contract expiring. You invest in Campbell. You have Dre Greenlaw. There is the caveat, though, that it could be you cut Dre Greenlaw, which would save you, instead of paying him $11 million next year, you'd pay him $7 million. So you'd you'd pay him $4 million. So you'd save $7 million, and he'd be off the books for the final year of the deal. That's not too tough to swallow at all. Yeah. And in that world, you bring Singleton back, and then that's what happens if Dre gets hurt or Alex Singleton has a monster year, and you just want to hold on to him. So you do have those options. You would probably be writing off Drew Sanders, though. And I'm not sure if they're ready to do that. But
I kind of hate it.
It would stink.
Low key, it adds a little edge room depth too. But again, we don't really want to do that to either him or Drew
Sanders out there
exactly.
again. Yeah.
Did have a 9.95 RAS score, has 10.5-inch hands.
Oh.
There is a lot to like about him.
Do you have an age?
And how he fits in the modern age. He is, I believe, quite young.
I thought so as well. So yeah, I agree. I think that he could be a weapon. I think he's somebody who could become an identity piece down the line for the Broncos. I think that he could be the middle of your defense for a long time. But again, you'd probably accept you're sitting him for this year, or rotating him in on third downs a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's always tough to do in a first round pick when you have the needs that they have. Well, the need that they have at running back. Any last thoughts before we get out of here?
Turned 21 in February, so still very young.
Very young.
Yeah, the more I've done this, the more he's my top off-ball linebacker ahead of even Jalen Walker, and I think Jalen Walker mocked at the end of the top 10 by many. I wouldn't be surprised if he went that high, but if he's around for the Broncos, has to be a real consideration, even if with all the factors we explained.
I agree. That's going to do it for our Jihaad Campbell breakdown. We'll be back with more on all sorts of different potential first-round picks for the Broncos, so stay tuned to the DNVR YouTube channel.